I think it's a fantastic title for any conference. Strong unions and turning the tide is very appropriate. But before moving on, I think I might be the first male this morning or this afternoon, or indeed today, to say the message of solidarity on International Women's Day to all the women across the world. You can never ever underestimate, comrades, colleagues, what impact women have got, in particular in the trade union movement as well. And I speak as a man who was on strike for 12 months in 1984-85, and let me tell you that the miners couldn't have survived without the fantastic efforts of the women against the closures. Getting back to the Unions21 conference, my message today will be fairly simple. It'll be basically based on unity is strength. I'm hoping to stimulate some discussion and some debate on the link between the trade union movement and the Labour Party, looking at the changing face of the trade union movement and how the trade union movement and how the Labour Party can actually deal with this. I think we should look at the need of the Labour Party to support the trade union movement in a more effective way, because I think people in this room, many other trade unionists would agree with me that that doesn't appear to be the case at this moment in time. How do we increase working representation in Parliament, and how do we adapt to the changing world in which we face? You know, I might be a little bit critical of the trade union movement, and why not? I might be a little bit critical of the Labour Party, and why not? Because, you know, at times we deserve to shake ourselves to say we're actually delivering for the people who keenly vote for us. My history is, people may be aware, probably most people are unaware, I come from the coal mining industry. I was a face worker after leaving school, and went through the ranks of the National Union of Mine Workers from compensation secretary at branch level to secretary at branch level to a regional secretary, and then I became the national executive member for the North East area and was for 20 years. And I succeeded Arthur Scargill in 2002 as the president of the National Union of Mine Workers. And I've got to say, even though I'm a member of Parliament, I see myself as a trade union member rather than a member of Parliament. And I think I'll see through the way in which I'll deliver my contribution today that probably will shine through, and I hope it does, because it's something I'm very proud of. When we look at how the world's changed, how the UK's changed in the past few years, how has the face of this country changed, and how has the trade union movement changed during that period? I had a look at some statistics which I'll mention very shortly, and I was absolutely surprised. But with the loss of the heavy industry, mining, shipbuilding, manufacturing and engineering, trade unionism has changed as well. Not only has this changed the face of the nation, but as I say, it changed the way in which we need to operate on behalf of our membership. The entire movement, the relationship between the trade union and the Labour Party and politicians, and in politics, is absolutely essential. You know, people might question whether we actually, as trade unionists, need a link with politicians or with the Labour Party. Do we need that link? I mean, my view is, of course we do. People might think it's fine. I don't think it's fine. I think it's essential. If we are to represent our members the way they deserve representation, then there must be a link with the Labour movement. The thing is how do we best achieve this? I think at this moment in time, and I met with Ian Miliband only just before Christmas to discuss what I perceived as a huge chasm between the Labour Party and the trade unions. And quite frankly, colleagues, I can see that chasm increasing. My job as the chairman of the trade union group is to try and ensure that we get closer and closer and closer. We'll never ever get back to where it used to be, but certainly that would be an aim, an objective of mine. But we look at the trade union movement. We've lost, well, in the last 20 years, I think we've probably had about 11.5, 12 million members. And now we've got, this is the TUC, and now we've got 6.5 million members. It's not good, is it? We've got to ask ourselves why this is the case. And listen, before people say he's Labour MP, won't say that, the Labour Party lost 5 million voters since 2005. And again, we've got to look at ourselves, we've got to ask, why have these people in both the trade union movement and the Labour Party deserted us? I think they do a fairly good job on both sides. Where are these people? Have they left because they're not getting a fair crack at the whip? Have they left because, as it's been said in this pay and progression and justice at work, they feel powerless in the workplace? Have they left because they think all political parties are the same? The answer, I'm afraid, would be quite different depending on who you talk to. The problem is, how, as a movement, do we get these people back? And we have got to look at the mirror, colleagues. We haven't got the divine right as trade unionists or as political parties to demand that people join. We've got to be appealing. We've got to be bold enough. We've got to be outreaching. It isn't good enough to say to someone, if you join the union, then you'll get free AA membership or 10% off at a shop off the main street. That's not what trade unions are about. We've got to reach out to people and we've got to explain to them why the trade union started hundreds and hundreds of years ago and has to protect ordinary people in the workplace in terms of many, many other things which I'll come on to. We've got to reach out to people, we've got to explain to people. That's why the trade union movement has survived, and we've got to ensure that it continues in the future. We haven't got the divine right just to say, I'm probably like yourselves. If I say to somebody, and my wife comes mad with me because on holiday, wherever, I'll say to people I've never met, remember that, what union are you in? And they're looking and my wife kicks us over the table and she says it's time to give up. And if somebody says they're not the union, I normally just say, and move on to talk to someone. It's very difficult to get any company for me. But that's some fantastic people not in the trade union movement. There's more people not in than there's in the movement. And I think we've got a great organisation. But some revealing facts. The typical trade union member today isn't working in heavy industry. It's normally a middle-level civil servant with a university degree. The higher your education level, the more likely you are to belong to a trade union. 29% of those with a degree or higher qualification are trade union members, compared to 14% of those with no formal qualifications. 34% of those in lower managerial and professional jobs are members of a trade union, compared to just 18% of those in routine jobs. These are startling facts. These are things that I didn't realise that I tried to do a little bit of research on for this contribution this afternoon. A good thing about the trade union movement and the chiefs and the barons, I think they were described as earlier on, the chiefs, the barons, the bosses, depending on what newspaper you read. Ipsos Mori polling, which tracks different trusts and different groups, found trade union officials considered more trustworthy than business leaders, politicians, or journalists, and great residual affection for the cause in what is basically fundamentally a social democratic country. The area where trade union density is the highest is public administration and defence. And from town halls to Whitehall, politicians are likely to be surrounded by unionised workers and their representatives on an almost daily basis. And this in many ways skews the political perspective. The Tories react on it, thinking that greater curbs on trade union activities are necessary, while the Labour figures underestimate the extent to which the union movement has lost ground in the wider economy. In this document, which is an excellent document, Mr. Chairman, I think the authors deserve a lot of credit for that, and the other publications that Unions21 produced are a credit to themselves and to the movement. And I mentioned before, in this document, it claims that a lot of people describe a feeling of powerlessness among the workforce. 16% of part-time workers say that they felt employers had no power at all compared to employers in the workplace. And this is compared to 10% among full-time workers. 72% of workers feel that employers have more power than they do. And basically, politicians have to be on the side of the working people to ensure that this is reversed. We haven't got an option on this as politicians. If we want to continue the relationship, and by goodness I expect most people certainly do within the Labour Party, we've got to step up the plate. And we've got to encourage trade unionists into the party, supporting the aims and the objectives of trade unionists across the UK. No shirking on this point, no shirking on this issue. That's why, colleagues, I'm not sure whether comrades would be okay, but I'll just continue with colleagues at this moment in time, until I get the right feeling. Colleagues, there's some more facts to consider. Over half of the British workforce are now never members of a trade union. Reality. Even the apprentices of the early 80s are now in their 50s. And unless we instill the knowledge that we have of what trade unions and the importance of the movement is to British democracy, we can simply see this disappearing within one generation. Trade unions have got a duty to continue with and ensure community engagement. We should ensure that union involvement doesn't just end at the workplace or at the gates, and that we draw on the wider community in defending their interests, especially with regards to their political representation. There's got to be some commitment to lifelong learning. And in addition, what's really important to this is we must eradicate the barriers to further and higher education that successive governments have introduced. And we must make this a number one political aim. The trade union movement is relevant. It's even more relevant now than it ever has been. We've got 6.5 million workers. There's people up and down the country wondering why they should be member of trade unions. And as I've mentioned before, it's up to us to encourage them on that. 76% of people trust trade unions and trust trade union leaders more than they do politicians or any other people in so-called power. 76% of people trust trade unions, and that's twice the amount of people who trust government ministers. So we have got a chance here somewhere. 61% of the people believe that the public sector strikes were justified, and a huge proportion of those were young people. So colleagues, we look at how we can change the changing face of trade unionism and the Labour Party. And we certainly need more people with normal working background and life experiences to become members of Parliament, so we can change the way we operate and the way we think in Parliament. I'm very careful not to say we need more working class people in Parliament, because that in itself is a huge debate. Who is working class and who isn't working class? Now I'll tell you what, I'll challenge anybody to tell me that I'm not working class. Just because I've got £65,000 a year as a salary doesn't mean to say I automatically move up into being a middle class person. I'm working class. Class isn't means tested. But we've got to be very careful. Do we want more lawyers? Do we want more accountants? Do we want more barristers, QCs, and professionals in Parliament? Or do we want more people with working experiences? My view is we want many, many more people with working experiences. And it's how do we best achieve that as well. And at long last, the Labour Party are looking at ways and means of getting people from the shop floor, should I say, into Parliament with the Future Candidates programme. And I'll tell you, I was amazed, because I had a little bit to do with the Future Candidates programme, and I had to scan through a number of options, a number of applications, I should say. And on the application form to become a Labour MP, and this is a Labour Party document, it said, are you a member of the Labour Party? And I just wondered, if you're not a member and you want to be a Labour MP, there's something sadly wrong here. And then honestly, and I shouldn't say this, it asked if there was any skeletons in the cupboard. And I wish I could repeat some of them, but I'm not. But then I went on to say, are you a member of a trade union? And you'll be surprised to see how many people who want to be a Labour MP are not members of the Labour Party, and they're not even members of a trade union. So I'll give you a guess where I put my cross. Well, at least the party, and I work very closely with Harriet Harman, who I've got tremendous affection for, done tremendous work in this field, behind the scenes and up front. Sadly, I'm not no longer Harriet's PBS for a number of different reasons, but I think she's doing a fantastic job on behalf of the party, trying to get ordinary people into politics. Children are doing the same. They're having weekend schools, they're trying to get people from the shop floor, build up their confidence, because you know, lots of ordinary working people now don't even believe that they could represent anyone in Parliament. But there's such a rich amount of people out there on the shop floor that we know they can't do. They just need a lift up. They need the same push forward as other people within the political ranks. Trade unions, I think the JMB and Unite are looking to, well, they have got the same sort of training schools coming forward with regards to training people from the shop floor. I just would urge a little bit of caution on not having elitist groups ready to step in at the next election. Because I strongly believe that the way to get ordinary people into Parliament, I should say people with working experiences into Parliament, disabled people into Parliament, and people who are not represented equally in Parliament, would be for the constituencies themselves to select who they want to represent them in Parliament, instead of the elite of the party telling them who they're going to have. Now that would be a step in the right direction. No more parachuting people in because they used to be his spad and her spad. People who have got a track record in the community, a track record in the trade union movement, looking after people, solving their problems, going the extra mile. These are the people we want in Parliament representing us. We want a fair balance and a fair mix. As a trade union group, as the chairman, I think we've got a crucial role to play in Parliament. It's very difficult. It's been moribund for quite some time now. I've got to accept and admit that. But since I've taken the role as the chairman, I see a function of getting all the trade unions together. One stipulation would be that they would be affiliated to the TUC, not the Labour Party, affiliated to the TUC. We've had meetings with lots of different unions. I want to make sure that we have a collective group. We need to have effective communications with those groups, they themselves and their political officers. We're looking to set up a structure whereby we can employ someone in Parliament as a researcher, someone who can act on behalf of the trade union group, someone who will work between the trade union group of MPs and the trade unions. We need this to work, and I think if it's done correctly and if we can get the right structures in place, it will undoubtedly benefit those people who we seek to represent. So when there's a message comes from above that the trade union group are looking to finance a new structure within Parliament, which will be much more beneficial to your union members, please give us some thought, because the finances would have to come from the trade union, from the trade unions themselves. Well, I've been critical of the trade union movement, but I want to be critical of the Labour Party as well, which I'm very proud to be a member of and have been a member all of my life. We haven't got this divine right to rule, and we haven't got the divine right to have the support of the trade union movement either. The party must be appealing. It's essential that we're not just seen as just not as bad as the Tories. So we'll just not cut just as much as the Tories, but just a little bit less. And we'll not attack trade union rights and rights in the workplace, but just not as much as what the Tories would. It's about time the party start opposing these attacks in the Commons, instead of perhaps shying off. And perhaps where we are at this moment in time, abstaining on lots of things, we should be big enough and proud enough to support opposition to these measures which are continually attacking ordinary people in trade unions and their members. But the party has made some good progress. They made good progress on living standards, and issues of pay and work, by the way, are popular, according to the Unions21 Fair Work Commission document. It also states that unequal pay came out in the pool of working people as the biggest obstacle to workplace fairness. So I'll tell you where I think we've gone wrong. I've accepted that I think we're poles apart, but recognise the need to come together. Not only recognise the need, I think if we do not achieve that, then the party and the trade union movement will fail. Together we need, on the run up to the election, we need to reframe the political debate. And I mean together, not just what the party wants and not just what the unions want. We need to reframe the political debate so it's appealing to more people on the doorstep. We need to make a case for facility time, for collective bargaining and employment rights. And can I just, for one moment, just touch on facility time? Because facility time is extremely important in trade unions. That is where the reps, the elected reps, get time off or take time off to look after and try and resolve the problems in the workplace with regards to employment rights, with regards to safety and health, with regards to collective bargaining, And this government is absolutely hell-bent on getting rid of facility time. Despite the facts that the TUC, if correctly provided, that facility time saves this government billions and billions, millions and millions of pounds. So I think facility time is so important. And again, that was mentioned this morning, the way in which the press say trade union reps are receiving millions of taxpayers' money and lining their pockets. How disgraceful. However, it's not going to be easy, but we need to have the ability to promote and present the likes of this to people who aren't members of trade unions and make these potentially vote losers into vote winners. It'll be tricky. We haven't got an option. We've got to do it. As I mentioned earlier, the face of the trade union movement has changed. But the aims and the ambitions and the aspirations of the members haven't changed. It's the same as they were many, many years ago, centuries ago. We need to rebuild the union movement, we need to rebuild the party. We need to rebuild it, reshape and remold it to represent our members effectively. And the membership of both don't want too much. They never ask for the world, you know. Never does a trade union representative ever ask for the world. What we want is fairness, justice, a safe work environment, decent wages, terms and conditions, equality, trade union recognition and rights in the workplace. Hardly a king's ransom. As a party, the Labour Party have got to step up to the plate. I'm absolutely confident that this will happen. We need bright, new, innovative policies. We need bold policies. We need to be appealing and not pandering to the right-wing press. Only working together, comrades, together as a strong, vibrant unit, will we ever do the membership the justice they so richly deserve. Thanks for the time.